Hey y'all, we are back with Mighty Multimedia Reviews. This is number 6, so we are moving right along. Still piling these up, still fun. I think my hair might be a little messed up, a little bedhead. I was really taking it easy for a while, relaxing before I filmed this. I tried a little bit. There's nothing more to do. I don't think so. This is what we're gonna get. So, I think, what was it? So 4 was a weird one, I called it, or just maybe like a less busy reviews. And then number 5 was pretty busy. That's just kind of how the cycle goes, I think, up and down there. Sometimes interesting things are coming out, sometimes they're not. And then sometimes I am seeing those interesting things, and sometimes I'm not. So this, unfortunately, is a little bit of a down week, but I think there's some fun things. I'll talk about it, I think, at the end. But next week should be really good. There's some really popular shows wrapping up. There's a movie that I definitely want to go see, and then just a few other little pieces there. So how this one is gonna go? I have 5 pretty standard. The first few are gonna be some Halloween related things. I know. I've been talking about Halloween for the last few episodes here. Topics was a fake Halloween, but still related a little bit. And then last week I did an actual Halloween with Scooby. Hopefully some people will watch that and enjoy it. But for this, it's going to be, the first 2 are going to be kind of Halloween related, and then the last 3 are not Halloween related. And we'll see how people enjoy them in general. But I enjoyed them, I consumed them, so I'm gonna talk about them here anyway. So the first one we have here is the new Scooby-Doo movie. I guess jumping right on, continuing from topics last time. Wasn't really planned, it's just when it came out. I don't know if all the Scooby-Doo movies, or a lot of Scooby-Doo movies, come out around Halloween. It would make sense. And this, not that this is super related to Halloween, but it is Scooby-Doo. So there's definitely some of the mystery and the ghost and stuff. Again, maybe tangentially related, but still interesting. So the new Scooby-Doo movie, it's called Scooby-Doo and Krypto 2. It is it's a crossover between Scooby-Doo and DC Comics, the Justice League specifically. Fascinating combo. We will get into it, but the basic plot is that the Justice League, and it's kind of a weird Justice League, but again, we'll get to that too. But the Justice League has gone missing. I guess they've been missing for a while when we kind of open up here, and the Scooby-Doo gang is called in to solve the mystery and figure out where they went. There's a ghost thing too. The Justice League is missing, so the Hall of Justice, there's no one there. So there's a ghost that's haunting the Hall of Justice because the mayor's bringing in tours and such. It's a little silly, but there's the ghost there, but it's the double mystery of what's going on with this ghost and where the Justice League is, I suppose, which is. It doesn't really cause any tension or any problems, but there is that two-parter mystery, sort of. The beginning here starts strong. Like I said, they get this, the actual plot. They tell you that pretty early on, which is generally good in these fun movies like this. Once the Scooby-Doo gang rolled into the Mystery Machine, they were immediately onslaught by a bunch of DC villains. Some classic ones and some less classic ones. The choices there were kind of fascinating, but that was a little much. The dynamic between Scooby-Doo and the DC superheroes, very different shows, very different ideas, very different characters and everything, very different pace, action involved. So jumping right in where they're just being onslaught, they're being attacked by a bunch of these DC villains, and I mean they're hanging in there, they're like barely escaping from everyone. That's not really what Scooby-Doo gang jump is in, so that's a lot just to get in there. And then Lois Lane and Jimmy meet the Scooby-Doo gang in the Daily Planet. There's some fun little interplay between Velma losing her glasses and not recognizing who she is, right? Playing on the whole Superman, Clark Kent, does the glasses really do anything? Oh, Superman does slouch. He wears bigger clothes than he actually fits in, so there's a lot more than that. Don't let anyone tell you that it's, make fun of the whole secret identity for Superman, because he doesn't have the mask, because Superman has to have no mask, because he's, the beacon. He doesn't have anyone to hide. He's not supposed to have anyone to hide, which is another reason that people don't really buy into the Clark Kent thing, because why would Superman have a secret identity? He's God, basically. But just in general, don't let anyone tell you that. There's more into it. But of course, you need to buy into it in some way, shape, or form, and you kind of just need to believe it and move past it. And in this, they're just poking fun of it with the Scooby-Doo. There's this weird, Lois and Daphne went to summer camp back in the day, and Lois thinks or wants Daphne to be her his girlfriend. Kind of weird. Okay, fine. It doesn't. I don't know. A little more plot, a little more fun to throw in there. So I didn't have a big problem with it or anything like that. Another little piece. Why doesn't the Scooby-Doo gang know who Krypto is? Right. The whole Justice League is gone, and when they're in the Hall of Justice, they find Krypto and they just have no idea who he is. Because I don't know. I remember at the beginning, Velma was pulling up her iPad and looking through it. Oh, that is that villain. That is that villain. He has like this power and whatever. So there's clearly a big database, and people know who the heroes and the villains are. So it's kind of weird they don't know who Krypto is. I guess maybe it's Krypto's just not. He's never really been in the spotlight. I mean, he is Superman's pet. The whole super pets can be interesting because sometimes they're not there at all because it is tough. You know, I mean, if you're Batman or Superman or whoever who has a pet, I think it's mostly those two. But I think there's another one here too. And you're dealing with a big crisis, you know, bring your dog, your super capable dog in Bat Dog, or your super powerful dog in Krypto. I mean, he's just another Kryptonian, so that can cause plot issues, story issues. So they're shunted to the side a lot. Sometimes they just don't exist because they want the story to be simpler, the world that they're working in to be a little simpler. So I guess this is kind of along the lines of that he exists, but he never really gone out and do anything. He was just Superman's dog. Although I don't know why you wouldn't use him in this spotlight. But either way, that was just a little question mark that I had. As I mentioned, you know, Scooby-Doo and DC Comics superheroes are very different. So it's a weird pairing. It's a weird comparison to be living in this whole world. I do think it's odd. It's not one of my favorite, but the execution is good. It's well done for this concept, whether you like the concept or not. The concept is well done. Basically, what I'm thinking and what I was thinking through watching it was that both the Scooby-Doo stuff and the superhero stuff were well done. And really what it was they got a lot of the Scooby-Doo stuff in there, and then they checked all those boxes, and then once that was done, they moved into the superhero stuff, which... that makes sense, kind of ramping up. That's the escalation. You know, Scooby-Doo is a little less of an escalation, so you're at an upward trend, and you finish off with the superhero action, because it started off with too much superhero action. It could have gotten really messy, I think. So let's start with the beginning, chronologically, with the Scooby-Doo stuff. The setup for who was the mystery, who was this ghost, again, I mentioned that, was pretty good. There was... a lady in a food truck, and she was getting good business. It was like, could it be her? And there was a guy who took care of the cars in the garage and everything with all the superhero mobiles, with the Batmobile and Invisible Jet and stuff. And he was happy because he didn't have to do more work or whatever. So it could have been him. Lex Luthor showed up, or it could have been him. That whole just, again, checking the box of setting up your suspects, who could be the mystery monster, villain, ghoul, whatever it is that you're dealing with for this episode or movie. And then Scooby-Doo splits off a lot, and the splits in this were just really, really good. They did stay together for a lot of it, but when they did split up, as you have to in Scooby-Doo, looking for clues, was really good. So Lex and Velma split up. Velma wanted to keep an eye on Lex. They knew who Lex was, which was kind of, you just had to do it. I get it. That's fine. He had a dog, Rex Luthor, I think it was. Nice little play on words there. But Velma just being really smarter than Luthor, and really knowing what was going on and keeping an eye on him. There was some good interplay there. Then you had Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are obviously together, and then they have Krypto, which is really fun. Krypto is able to kind of facilitate a lot of their shenanigans. They're trying to immediately find the kitchen, they can't get in, so Krypto has to bust it down. There's this hologram kind of nonsense, which is fine, which is enjoyable. But Krypto is just, he has the powers, so he is able to protect Scooby and Shaggy a lot of the time from some of this more crazy shenanigans, and again, facilitate when they want to go do some stuff that they probably shouldn't be doing. And Scooby and Shaggy also show their chops, what they can do, that they are incapable in some ways, use the disguises to stop and distract the hologram villains. And then the other one is a classic. Obviously, there's no twist on it, but it's Freddy and Daphne. But this is particularly well done, I would say. Freddy and Daphne dynamic is usually the, will they, won't they, for their romantic relationship. And Velma is usually in the way there, so the two of them don't get to breathe. They use Jimmy is wants to be, or thinks he is Velma's boyfriend, so Freddy's a little jealous there. And then there's this also, Freddy gets a bad belt, and he's geeking out over it, and he's trying to use it, but he's just totally failing. It's Freddy and Daphne, their dynamic, really at its best here, which is such a weird spot to have it at its best in this Scooby-Doo superheroes movie. You have to set up the suspects, you have to have them split up for clues, and then you have to have a chase, right? The villain's got to chase them, and the chase was really good. You had Solomon Grundy in there too, was chasing them. Was actually the big chase, aside from the ghost that they had. But it was fun. It was just classic Scooby-Doo. At one point though, I think it was Solomon Grundy. It could have been someone else. I'm pretty sure it was Grundy. Fell on the bottle city of Kandor. So, I mean, all the Kandorians are dead. That's kind of wild. They're probably not, if you're thinking about in the canon of this, but I don't know how you survive a big, giant zombie butt breaking your entire city. And then, again, so, running through, you gotta set up your suspects, you got to split up for clues, you gotta have a chase, and then you got to unmask your villain. And in this, the villain, spoiler alerts, was a real resentful Mercy Graves. That's the right-hand woman. She's actually had a lot of different interpretations. This interpretation is just, she's literally like a right-hand, normally she's like a spy and she can do number things, or she's got like a robot arm, or she is a robot, things like that. She's just a girl, a secretary basically, who carries Luther's bags and does Luther's stuff for him. But she's resentful that he's not being a good bad guy, not doing good at villainy or something recently. I think how she's been treated too. The motivation was a little messy there, but fun. You get rid of all the other obvious suspects and you put her in as bring her out as a surprise villain. But then Luthor actually knew what was going on, so he's basically actually the villain. That's fun too. The double reveal in Scooby-Doo is not done too often, and in this one it's used to relatively good effect. And you gotta get Lex Luthor in the bad guy, right? If you're gonna have him in here, you gotta use him. Once the mystery stuff is done, once the villain has been unmasked as Mercy and then unmasked again as actually Luthor, trying to demolish the Hall of Justice and get land development or whatever. That's what rich people do, right? After that, you get into the superhero stuff, which again I appreciate, just the pacing and the mechanics of that. And each of the characters, the Scooby-Doo gang, at least most of them, Scooby and Shaggy, are just kind of dealing with Krypto for the most part. That's their superhero mix, but all the other characters get a great superhero mix. Velma gets into a big Luthor robot. Awesome. Freddy gets to drive the invisible tank, which I don't even know if that is an actual reference, but obviously from Wonder Woman. Good stuff. And then Velma gets the bat belt. Freddy gives her the bat belt because he knows that he can't use it, and he knows that she can, because Daphne, my apologies. Daphne is always the most capable. She should be the most capable. She wasn't at the very beginning, right? She was the total damsel in distress. But as Scooby-Doo has progressed throughout the years, she has been, a reporter or just like an entrepreneur, has connections, knows how to talk her way out of things, and then she starts fighting, and she's able to be, I can't think about the word, but just physical activity, flips and gymnastics and stuff like that. Really good. Velma just jumps in and is basically Batman. She's using the smoke pellets and the batarangs and the grappling hook, killing it out there. Love when Daphne is the most capable and she can actually hold her own. Really good effect here. Last little bit, you don't really see who this Justice League is until the end, until they are released from the Phantom Zone. Spoilers alert. Again, that's how they disappeared. But it was kind of a weird one. Hawkman was in it, and I think Aquaman, maybe. But there's no Batman, there's no Green Lantern, there's a few other ones missing. There's no Green Arrow because they played with Green Arrows earlier. Kind of odd. I don't know. Really overall, really general last thoughts. Creative and unique and fun and fluid dynamic. It was good. Some weird ideas and not everything was perfect, but really took their time and respected both complicated universes and franchises. Both have a lot of history, a lot of working parts, a lot of characters, a lot of just, foundational elements behind it, and this movie took care of both of them. So a good little Halloween watch if you want to see it. Even more Halloween. This is an actual Halloween movie, I would say, but it's not new. It's very not new. Early 2000s, I think, something like that. Okay, we are dealing with the movie Bewitched. The plot, I'll give you the plot, because this is, I definitely want to start off with this. The plot is really important for this. Okay, so the plot of this movie is that Will Ferrell, right, and I mean, this is in quite a few movies, not too worried about that, but Will Ferrell, an actor, is playing an actor who is remaking an actual show from the 60s or 70s, something like that, called Bewitched. In said show, there is a witch who is trying to give up her powers to leave a mortal, regular life with a guy, and the woman that Will Ferrell's character gets to play, the witch in the new remake, is actually a witch, and who is looking to give up her powers and go to the mortal world and live a regular life with a man that she wants to fall in love with. That's whack. That's crazy. That's just, it was a lot going on. It shows. I'll show you. Again, I don't know, like the other one, props for trying. I always say that. Props for giving it a shot. Props for doing something a little unique and a little risky, but whack. Like I said, this is early 2000s or something like that, so it's like peak Will Ferrell. He's coming off of The Anchorman and stuff, probably, because that was like in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. But I don't think he's done Step Brothers yet, but Talladega Nights, some of these, this is peak Will Ferrell, so I don't even know why he's in this random rom-com. But I gave this some thought, and it's just, I think that every actor, or most actors, most big actors, take a chance, take a risk on a holiday movie all the time when they can, when they think that it could be a movie that catches on to people, that people love, and that it turns into a classic for that holiday and is ritually rewatched year over year over year. I can't think of any great examples, but there's plenty of examples. I mean, Will Ferrell did it with Elf, right? And there's obviously some other ones. Mine personally in 10 Commandments for Easter with Charlton Heston. That's a really old one, but I watch that all the time. And there's a bunch of different ones. Independence Day for 4th of July with Will Smith and Bill Pullman and all those, right? Just actors definitely do like to do that, because if it hits, if it becomes that classic, you're just going to have people watch it year over year over year. You're probably going to get more money off of it. You could probably do press tours and stuff when it comes up. You can just look forward to it. So if I was an actor or an actress, I would probably do just the exact same thing. It doesn't work out. It's probably got a really low success rate. I don't think most Halloween or holiday movies, in general, actually turn into those classics. That's why they're classics. They're very few and far between. But again, the gamble is probably worth it. So as the movie progresses, they're jumping in, and there's just like some kind of fun but cliche, and some of it is a little annoying shenanigans that the movie like this would do, right? They go back and forth with Will Ferrell and the actress that's in there, between them liking each other at the beginning, flirting, and then turning to hate each other, and then falling in love. It's fine. It works. That's the story. There's this part where Will Ferrell gets hexed into really loving her, like really hardcore, like too much, from the witch's aunt, who just comes out of absolutely nowhere, and then after that little segment is kind of put away, just disappears, is never talked about again, because there's time travel, right? They throw in there, he falls in love and he does all this nonsense, but then the witch doesn't want it to be fake, so she does time travel and reverses it. Again, the aunt never shows back up, just completely forgotten. She should at least show up, and the daughter, or the niece, the witch, should tell her to go away. I don't know what that's about. We'll talk about it a little more actually on that vein. But time travel, you gotta be careful with time travel in this movie that's already complicated. I don't think it was super worth it. The whole kind of piece where the hex and then the time travel is just a movie that it was just like a piece in itself that's not super relevant to everything, I think. And then because of the time travel, everything is erased. I don't know if you maybe get some character recognition with the witch, but I don't know really how much you need in that. Like, Will Ferrell's the one who's really messed up. She's naive. I guess she's gonna learn to do it herself a little bit. So maybe it gets a little more credit than I'm giving it, but not the hugest fan of that little part. Then this movie, Bewitched, just ends so abruptly, out of nowhere, just wrapping everything up, just full hard stop, right? The witch just tells Will Ferrell that she's a witch, and he absolutely freaks out. I haven't been in a situation, but me being a nerd with all this stuff maybe is a little bit. I think I would enjoy it if she wasn't like a scary witch or whatever. She just told her she was a witch and she like did some magic. I would be like, that's awesome. Like we could do a lot of fun things with that or something. But Will Ferrell does not like it. Kind of lame reaction. I don't know, whatever. And then he runs away. There's like a fever dream with Steve Carell. Little cameo there. I don't even know what the heck was happening in that. But then with Steve Carell's help, he realized that he loves her even though she's a witch, which again, I don't know, I don't think it's that big of a deal. And then they fall in love and it's over. It just, like, it's moving relatively smoothly or whatever. I was actually enjoying the beginning and then just hard stop. Michael Caine is also in this movie. He is the dad of the witch. He's awesome. Michael Caine is an absolute beast. I love that actor. He's really good in this. He just pops in out of nowhere and like gives her some advice or kind of chides her or whatever. But he's good. He's a lot of fun. He's a playboy or whatever because he's really old. And I guess the mother's not in it, but they go back and forth with the mother a little bit, the witch's mother. But he falls in love with or is flirting with an older actress who you don't think is a witch because she's playing a witch in the remake show that they're making. Again, there's all of these, just too much. I feel like the Charlie Day trying to connect all of the dots here. But then she turns out to be an actual witch. You don't know that at first because she's saying some stuff that's kind of sus, but then they play it off for laughs. But then she is actually a witch. They just totally show it, and then it goes nowhere, absolutely nowhere. Because the movie just abruptly ends and you don't see them after that. You gotta have some type of payoff. This movie just kept like dropping plot threads like all the time out of nowhere. It was extremely aggravating. I think this movie, maybe there was some delays or some behind the scenes nonsense. I don't know, but there was definitely some plot points that should have been paid off. It's the smoking gun thing. If you're going to put that out there, you need to do something with it, or even just stuff that happened and then you just didn't address it. The time travel with the aunt, and then this woman being the witch. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe those were just throw-ins that they wanted to have, and it wasn't really supposed to go anywhere. It was just fun things to fill the runtime. But I think it was dropping the ball there a lot. Again, I liked it throughout a lot of it, and then the end crashed and burned. So, a fun-ish Halloween movie. There's a lot of better ones out there. I don't think this is a classic, so Will Ferrell didn't succeed on that end. But I mean, if you like it, if it's one of your classics, fine. But personally, I think there's probably some better Halloween movies out there. We're done with the Halloween stuff now. Sorry, I hope you had a good Halloween, and there's always next year. So sure we'll have some fun things if we're still in business. But these last three are all books, actually, so a little less poppy, flashy stuff, but it is what it is. This was what I was reading. This is the one that the only one that I have a prop for this time, the book. I definitely get the books for these other ones, but the other ones are pretty short and small. I'm gonna mostly breeze through those. But this one was awesome. Loved it. Ready? So this is Franklin and Winston. Actually, an intimate portrait of an epic friendship by John Meacham there. Mine's a little ripped. I think I bought it used here, but pretty cool cover. And it's just great. As the title kind of says there, it's just a really great telling and insight into a just legendary friendship. I mean, these two men did so much together, right? So we're talking about President Franklin Delano Roosevelt of the United States, and then Prime Minister Winston Churchill of the UK. And they're obviously in the time, at least this, when they meet. They met, I guess, earlier one time, but they didn't even really remember each other. And they were both a lot less important back then. But the dynamic is pretty interesting because FDR really grew up rich and pampered and everything and got a lot what he wanted. Winston Churchill did not, and he really had to fight for everything that he had. They both had a lot of different jobs and roles throughout the year that the book went into. But of course, we're talking about what they did during World War II, the big war, right? So the book covers the entirety of this World War II era, right? So the beginning, when Churchill is really trying to drag FDR into the war because France has fallen, a bunch of the other ones have fallen in Europe, and Germany, Nazi Germany, and Hitler is really just wrecking shop over there. Really, really bad situation, and really focused on England with the Blitzkrieg and everything. Bombs are falling all the time. It's crazy how much Churchill had to hold out. It was a whole year, at least, that they were literally fighting Hitler. And Mussolini, I think, in Italy, maybe in some capacity down there alone. He just had to buckle up after the disaster of Dunkirk and Neville Chamberlain's failed idea of peace and everything. Did not work. Churchill stepped in and he single-handedly led the British people, gave them hope, kept fighting. But then he courted FDR because he knew that he needed America to get into to win the war, to survive in any way, shape, or form. So then once FDR finally did enter, he wanted to enter for a while. That's pretty well documented. But obviously, Pearl Harbor with the Japanese really dragged the U.S. into the war, whether they liked it or not. But FDR was ready to go. He wanted to go in. He was already prepared, and so they were able to jump right in and go help Franklin still. So then it's the really peak of their friendship where they Franklin goes and sees Churchill goes and sees FDR, and they're meeting in person, kind of slow, but then they are communicating all the time. They're running the world, right? They're running the defense against the Axis powers there, Germany, Italy, and Japan, and they're the good guys, and they're doing everything. They're communicating, and they're saving our planet, really, for all intents and purposes. Then the next little, what do I say, just like a curveball that's thrown in is the insertion of Joseph Stalin, the head of the USSR, because originally they went into World War II on Germany's side. They attacked Poland simultaneously with their non-aggression pact. Not too many people remember that, to be honest. But they did. They were on their side. But then Hitler turned on Russia back then. And Stalin just kind of happened to be on our side, to be honest. Hitler just wasn't a real fan of Bolsheviks and communism. And he was also crazy, bit off more than he could chew. Honestly, if Hitler did not invade their ally Russia there and just focused on finishing off England, even before doing that, we could really be living in a different world, speaking more German maybe. But either way, that's what he did. And when he did that, the big three now was, that's FDR, Churchill, and Stalin. So it's the US, the UK, and Russia, USSR. They all have this pact, and they are now running the world. And Stalin is definitely a different presence. I'm sure you know, right? Whenever you have a friend, you bring in a third one, it changes up the dynamic. Whether you want it to or not, it's going to inevitably happen. This one was Stalin was a big personality, and the UK, Britain's power was really waning. They got devastated, and their empire is kind of falling apart. And the Russian and US economy and military is just way surpassing them now. Maybe not quite that, but it's on a much more upward trend. So FDR and Stalin are really the ones with a lot of the power. Churchill is kind of being the third wheel, unfortunately. Some back and forth here and there, and it actually kind of makes Stalin seem like not a terrible guy. He's not a great guy. I've heard some polls where in Russia his popularity is kind of rising now, obviously, with a lot of hindsight. But he did a lot of terrible things, a lot of purging of his own people and working labor camps and stuff like that. So don't be out there idolizing Stalin. But then the last part, I guess that's this is the three kind of acts, and then the conclusion. The sudden death of FDR. Really unfortunate. He could have probably served us a lot better. And it was pretty young. I forget what they said, but I think it was early 60s. It was a while back then, but still pretty early. He was dealing with polio his whole life, so it wasn't like it was out of absolute nowhere, but still it was some kind of brain hemorrhage thing or whatever, and he had passed away. How it hit Churchill and how it affected the world, how many people grieved his loss, and how the world really changed. They were talking about setting up this good UN program and everything, and it did happen in some capacity, but Truman was a different person. Truman and Churchill couldn't connect like FDR did. So just the fallout of that. And then Churchill's life after, because he lived a lot longer, into the 70s, I think, maybe late 60s, but he saw a lot, he did a lot. He left the prime minister and came back to the role, so there's a lot going on. Okay, that was the whole plot, a lot of history there, but this book did a good job, and I think that was the lesson here was worth telling, specifically for what this book did, right? Aside from the actual history, I've talked a little bit about it, but to go in, I've talked about great history books. You need to tell the history, the facts, and everything, but you need a good angle, a good hook, a good avenue, a good lesson, a good view of telling the history, because history books can be really dry, really boring if you don't have that kind of hook, that kind of angle. And this is it. This is definitely the definition of this, because you got the history of a lot of World War II, but it was also focused on this aspect of their friendship. So it was very focused, and the history kind of tangentially floated around it, but that way you were able to get both. It also does, obviously there are facts in this history, and this book does a great job of mixing and combining, of swirling together the facts of what actually happened with a lot of the intricate conversations and intricate thoughts of the characters involved there, FDR, Churchill, and a lot of their relative circles. There was interviews with people who saw the reactions. There was accounts by each of these individuals, FDR and Churchill. Churchill kept a pretty extensive diary, I guess, so they were able to get a lot of his thoughts. Some of it was speculation and inferences, certainly, but it really masterfully used these two different ideas to tell this really, again, narrow story with all of this crazy context going on. It was awesome to get into the mind of these people. My general thoughts: these two legends of history, of politics, of warfare, of whatever you want to call them, just did earth-shattering, earth-changing, single-handedly saved our world. They did unbelievable things that most people could never even dream of, let alone actually accomplish. So absolutely worth a read here, and just fantastic to have the opportunity to pull back the curtain against these two legends in this incredible time, to see what was going on, to see the intricacies of their just relationship, not even what they were doing, but how they interacted with each other, how they felt about each other, the things that they did to kind of hurt or harm or even make fun of each other, the things they did to support and love each other. It's a special book. I top marks. Definitely recommend this. Our penultimate review, as I promised, is still a book. Much smarter, a smaller book than that, definitely. So it's a letter. Okay. It is MLK Jr.'s, quote, a letter from a Birmingham jail. So it's obviously famous. I'm sure a lot of you have heard it. I heard a lot about it, but I didn't really actually get to read it. I did it on audiobook. Again, I'm doing all of these on audiobook. But to get to actually read this really important historical piece was fantastic. The history, right? So you are really at the beginning of the civil rights movement. No, sorry, not the beginning, but in the late 50s, early 60s or whatever. And it's just the civil rights movement. It hasn't actually happened yet, right? It's in full swing, but it's still kind of looking like a long shot. They're still fighting really, really hard. Not that they didn't later, not that they're still now, to be honest. But this was at a really pivotal time, I would say. And MLK had another one of his peaceful protests, and he was arrested for it, right? And he took that time in jail to sit down and write this masterpiece, right? He just had the patience and the poise and the perspective, all the P words you can think about, to use this time so wisely to further his movement, to further the larger civil rights cause. Just really an impressive thing to do in itself, let alone his amazing oratory and writing skills. I'd like to think that if I was ever arrested and sent to jail, God, no, if I don't, but I'd like to think if I did, I would use my time wisely like MLK did here. And he wasn't in there for a crazy amount of time. And they were actually kind of, I believe the history is that they were willing to let him go. People were making calls. They didn't think it was a good look, but he wanted to stay in there. He wanted to serve his time kind of as a martyr, as a symbolic gesture there. But again, I would like to think that I would use my time this wisely, but I don't really know if I would. I'd probably be too scared about everything else. But either way, fantastic. So this letter has a lot of famous lines. I'm sure you know some of them. I urge you to read them for yourself. There's also some other good lines that you probably don't know that you should read those too. But really what's important is the context of this, because there's a bunch of different quotes and everything pulled out. But the whole context of what he's saying, what he's arguing for, obviously the historical context in itself, but the context of these really famous lines in the entirety of the piece is really important. You can take things out of context and they can look better or worse than they actually are, but context is everything. So you should read this in its entirety to make sure that you actually get the gravitas and get the meaning of whatever, every little piece that he's saying. Just MLK's whole piece here, all his thoughts, everything put together is just the perfect mix of, of pleading, of informative, just giving the facts, of arguing for his side, of making demands when he has to, so giving ground where he can and planting himself and taking a stand where he can't. It's a masterful mix of all of these different ideas. He doesn't go too hard when it doesn't seem like he does, but then he doesn't go too soft when he needs to be, and he gives the background, the information to build up to it, and he digs down and he makes a great argument when he needs to. I mean, MLK Jr. is one of the best orators and writers ever, I would say. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of people who have lived, and some of their work we've gotten lost, and obviously orators, we don't know what they say unless it was written down. We've heard stories just of how great people were orators, but a legend of his time. He did so much, obviously, for the civil rights movement, Vietnam War peace protests. Also, more near the end of his life, his assassination, early death, was extremely sad. But just we have to use what we have. We can't take for granted what we have, and we have this great piece of his thoughts and his moment and the great person he was. So if you're a history fan here, pick this up. This last little piece here, very short, so worth a read, just kind of regardless of anything else, along with the last one we talked about, the letter from Birmingham jail. But this last one is Sun Tzu's Art of War. Again, I don't have the physical copy to show you. I'm gonna get it at some point, but it's very short and sweet, so just read it if you haven't. Very famous, again, so everyone knows what this is. It definitely has all of the analogies and advice that you have heard of. You've heard people quote all the time, Sun Tzu in the Art of War said this, and then that's how they win their brilliant strategy or whatever. But again, you just have to read it to get the actual full experience. It's wild, how long ago this was actually written. It was written in ancient China by Sun Tzu. I think it might have had a different name, or it might have been like a pen name or something. But it was written so long ago. Right? The context of this is the time when there's a bunch of different factions warring for supremacy in China, and he wrote this because war was all they did, right? The art of war, obviously. But it's crazy how relevant it is at the same point, how old it is, but how you can use these pieces, you can mold these just universal pieces of advice towards problems and issues today. Really special, really forward thinking to have that. But just imagining the time frame that this is in, and just feeling the history, in your hands, holding that history is a pretty cool experience. So yes, get this one too. All right, that's it. I'm done. I have nothing else up my sleeves or in my pockets. That was our 5 reviews. Again, maybe not the most exciting, the most relevant, hot topic ones, but these are the ones that I was reading. Next week, I think, should be really cool, really, really packed. There's some shows that should end by the time I do this next one. It's like Loki Season 2, Gen V. There's that new anime, The Boy and the Heron, coming out that I think I'm going to watch. There's other books that I'm reading. So a comic book or two that I might finish up and throw in there. So that'll be really exciting. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to that. We'll hopefully get into all of that stuff. Again, hopefully this gets some people to watch it, because some of this history is really cool, and then some of the fun at the beginning with that Halloween little hook hopefully will help as well. Again, we're officially done with Halloween. Again, hope you had a good Halloween moving into Thanksgiving and then the Christmas season beyond. I have a good episode for the Thanksgiving season, and then the Thanksgiving holiday, and before that I have a fun idea too. again, maybe it's not I'm going to be talking about Halloween in that, just a tiny bit too, just for some context. But either way, that's all from me. Have a great day. Signing off.